Jimbo, 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 Jimbo. Did Texas A&M's football program just take a turn for the best? Let's kind of recap based on what's been happening ever since they made the move to the SEC conference. And joining me today, he's back, Jacob Hale from the Houston Astros World Series Reaction Talk. He is back. How are you doing this evening, Jake?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I am doing much better. I mean,
yeah, me too.
Now personally, I feel like we just gotta be realistic here. This isn't gonna be an overnight change.
Exactly.
So we gotta be more realistic about that. I mean, the goal for the first year could probably be at least try beating LSU or maybe Alabama, but as long as they win one of those two games next year, I think it'd be a good season.
Definitely.
Because there's also more coaching rumors. There's also some discussion of Gus Malzahn probably taking the Arkansas job.
That's possible.
And I got a feeling that Jimbo Fisher would recruit very well this year.
Exactly. And now we have a pipeline in Florida, and he's a great recruiter, so we're going to have an even better chance at getting some of those top recruits out of Florida. In addition to the pipeline that we already have established in Texas.
Yes, and I'm kind of excited for that because Texas A&M was able to recruit really solidly under Kevin Sumlin, but the problem was with Kevin Sumlin, it's not that he can't find the talent, it's just that he can't utilize the talent or get the talent to stay. Because if you look ever since the Johnny Manziel days, they've had Kenny Hill transfer, they've had Kyle Allen transfer, they've had Kyler Murray transfer.
That's 3 5-star recruits in just a couple of years.
Yeah, and right now they have Nick Starkel and Kellen Mond. Could you see either of those transferring at this point? Because it feels like every single year Texas A&M fans are talking.
With Jimbo Fisher, I don't see that happening.
But who do you think he's going to start, though, under his system? I'd say he might lean more toward Mond. Because Mond is probably a more Jameis Winston-type QB.
I think it's going to be Starkel.
That doesn't matter as long as they can win some games with it.
Exactly.
Because Kellen Mond was originally committed to Baylor, but then the Art Briles thing broke out, which caused him to decommit.
Mm-hmm.
And that was another problem with A&M is they even had recruits that were decommitting left and right because assistant coaches were going after recruits on social media, and including quarterback Tate Martell, who's the third-string quarterback for the Ohio State Buckeyes right now.
That's correct.
Yeah, it just seems like there's been quarterback problems ever since Johnny Manziel. It's that they can't get a quarterback to stay for more than a year. Because the Kenny Hill era only lasted about 6 games.
Mm-hmm.
And the Kyle Allen era only lasted about maybe a season and a half. And then the Kyler Murray era lasted about maybe... Kyler Murray showed some flashes against Arizona State and Arkansas in his freshman season, but that was about it. Because clearly it's shown that maybe the quarterbacks just don't want to be there. Because I feel like, with myself, I wish someone the best, but I just don't think the SEC conference was for him at this point. But there is some news or some rumors out there that he was a candidate for the Arizona State job and a candidate for the Tennessee job. And he could easily be a candidate for Florida State. Which team do you think would be the best fit from out of those 3?
Probably. Well, isn't the Arizona State job already filled?
I mean, people are saying it might be with Herm Edwards, but...
Well, I think that would be his best fit because he's more of a West Coast offense type of guy, and that's more suited in the Pac-12 than it is in the SEC, which is part of the reason why he failed to have great success over his last few years here at A&M.
Yeah, because a lot of the fan base was calling for his head at the end of the 2015 season.
Uh-huh.
And it got worse at the end of 2016. And then with the 34-point blown lead on Labor Day weekend, it really started to heat up.
Right.
So, my next question is, do you think Kevin Sumlin would be a good offensive coordinator if, like, in the near future? Because I was thinking he might go to a team to be a coordinator, maybe not a head coach right away.
I think he would be a great offensive coordinator.
Because he was a great offensive coordinator back with A&M in 2000, and I believe it was like the early 2000s when they beat Oklahoma back in the Big 12.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a great offensive coordinator. So my next question is, how does this affect Florida State? Because Florida State is now trying to target Willie Taggart out of Oregon, and Oregon is trying to get Willie Taggart to stay. And if this complete chaos ensues, it could affect a lot. Because I got a text earlier from a Nebraska fan saying that a lot of Nebraska fans are concerned that if Willie Taggart ends up taking the Florida State job, they are concerned that Scott Frost might take the Oregon job or might want it.
Mm-hmm. That's definitely possible.
But I read somewhere on my timeline on Twitter that the deal for Scott Frost in Nebraska is in place.
Uh-huh.
And they would have a press conference about it. I believe they were talking Monday afternoon was their target date.
Right.
So, out of those two potential hires, which one do you think is the best one? Jimbo Fisher to A&M or Scott Frost to Nebraska?
Definitely Jimbo Fisher to A&M.
I would agree with that because, really though, what Scott Frost be taking over is kind of a dumpster fire in Nebraska. And considering that they've been impatient for over the last decade, it seemed like ever since 2001, Nebraska's just fallen off the map.
I agree.
Because being here in the Nebraska area, like every single Saturday, they seem to be unhappy with something. Whether if it's the quarterback play or the coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and one more thing about the Jimbo Fisher deal. It turns out this is the highest coaching offer in college football history with 10 years with over $75 million. Do you feel like this is an all-in move?
Yes, definitely. Like, they had to go all in to get him away from Florida State, and that's what they were able to do. So we'll just have to see how it turns out.
Because Florida State seemed to really start to throw Jimbo Fisher under the bus. Like, it seemed like this was a nightmare season for the Seminoles. Because preseason, we were talking Francois coming back. They've got a bunch of key pieces on defense coming back. Cam Akers, the freshman running back, who's going to be a star one day. It seemed to just all collapse ever since Alabama. Could you think Alabama will be a season breaker for these Seminoles?
Uh-huh.
Especially when the quarterback goes down, which a lot of the fans seem to throw Jimbo under the bus this year, especially ever since I believe it was the Louisville game when he went after a heckler in the stands.
I don't recall that, but... Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I believe it was after they lost to Louisville on, I believe it was a last-second field goal, or probably like within the last couple of seconds, and I guess there's a heckler that was chanted they want their defensive coordinator fired, because a lot of people, including myself, thought that Florida State's bringing back probably one of the nastiest defenses in college football. But it kind of just fell apart. Like, it falls apart at the seams, but I think the defense wasn't too bad, in my opinion.
I agree.
I just felt like this wasn't the year, because if you think about it, losing a quarterback, it's like losing a head coach in a way. It's like losing your leadership on the football field.
It's a big piece of the team.
Yeah, look at what's happened to the Packers losing Aaron Rodgers. What's happened to the Texans losing Deshaun Watson.
Mm-hmm. But, hey, listen, man, I gotta go. But right. I wanted to thank you again for having me on. I'm really excited to see how Jimbo Fisher turns out for A&M.
Oh, I'm really excited for this, too. I'm kind of stoked, but I know this isn't going to be an overnight thing, but I think the goal should be this year is to maybe start off 9-3, including a win over LSU. I'd say start off with LSU first, because right now, A&M, I believe, has been 0-7 against LSU so far, under the Kevin Sumlin era.
Mm-hmm.
Or just in general, because they did get blown out in the Cotton Bowl back in, I believe it was 2010. So focus on beating LSU first. That'd be a good goal to have.
I agree.
All right, thank you for joining me this evening.
All right, I'll see you later, man.
Right, I'll see you later.
Take care.
Goodbye. So that is all we have for you this evening. I'll be back tomorrow night with my final college football playoff rankings. It's not going to be the top 10. It's just going to be top 6. Enjoy your conference championship weekend. I will see you back tomorrow night. I'll also be back on Sunday right after we find out the 4 teams that will be in the college football playoff. I will see you then. Have a great night, everyone.